Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week I'm going to continue from where I was last week, and hopefully I can finish these doors. So last week I repaired these lower corners on both sides of this door, and they came up pretty good, but there's still a couple of pinholes I need to address, and there's still a lot of other issues around this door that I still haven't tackled yet. So before I can even go through and start using my door skin patch panels, there's a lot of work to do on the inside of the door first to get it right before I put it all back together. Alright, so with this patch piece along here, it's got a soft curve in it. So what I've done is I've marked out my patch piece, but I've actually left a bit extra on the top because it's really difficult to fold a piece that thin, particularly nice and smoothly and evenly along the length. But if you've got a little bit more, I can just bend it first and then cut it off later. So I'm going to go and put this in the vise now and see if I can put a nice soft curve into it to match what's here, and then I can weld it in. Alright, and we are looking pretty good. This whole corner here is looking pretty decent. I've repaired the hole here and replaced this edge. This whole corner is all new. This center section along here is all repaired. One of the interesting things I found is that somebody has actually deliberately punched holes through the door skin. It looks like with an axe or something, just smashed their way through the door skin. And I was scratching my head wondering, why would anybody do that? And then I realized, I think it's actually so they could get access to do the repair behind the panel. Honestly, that is not a nice way of doing it. So even though it's under the door skin, I'm going to try and just sort of lightly fix it up because it just is really ugly and really pointless. You're never going to see it, but oh no, it's there. Alright, holes are patched up. They're not pretty. I'm not going to go to town on making them perfect and nice and pretty, but at least there's no holes punched into my door skin anymore. Alright, now it's time for the difficult part, and that is trying to join these patch panels all together and hope that I can get everything straight and square and neat and the way it should be. No idea how it's going to turn out. I'm just going to take my time and go slowly and just work my way around, and hopefully I can do it justice. We'll see. Okay, so when I was welding this, it really didn't warp much. I managed to sort of keep it within a reasonable spec, but when I went back to grinding it, I think the biggest issue is that because I'm pushing pressure on a big flat panel and heating it up, it's basically shaping it as it's hot, and that's causing more of the warping issues than I would really like. But now it's a matter of going back through and just panel beat it back out into shape, and then I can continue on with the the rest of the repairs. Alright, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but this area right here is quite stretched. I think a lot of it is due to the previous repairs. Obviously you can see a lot of this is sort of stretched along here. As you can see, when I push it from underneath, it actually it pops in and out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of localized heat shrinking around here and see if I can get rid of that poppiness and see if I can tighten this panel up a bit. Alright, that was a lot of messing around backwards and forwards trying to get rid of some of the stretched metal that was in the middle here, because it's already been worked so much that it actually sort of bubbled in the middle, and then where I put my repair, it's sort of sunken. It's definitely not perfect, but it's a whole lot better than it ever was before. As it is, it might just need a nice light skim of body filler, or bog, as I know some of you non-Australians have noted that we call it here. This door is not finished. I have to now go through and do this horrible repair where the mirrors were mounted and see if I can get that looking a little bit better than it is at the moment. So you can see here that I've roughly made my patch piece, but it doesn't quite line up with the curves. I sort of marked where I wanted my bends to go. So now I'm going to sit here and just go through and bend this by hand backwards and forwards to try and get it to match the exact same curve as what is here until it sits nice and flush all the way along and you can't see a gap along this edge, and then I'll know I've got it in the right spot. I can weld it in. Okay, I've got my piece and it's taken a fair bit of time to fold it and bend it and get the shape just right, just the way I want it, but I'm reasonably happy with it here. Now I'm ready to cut out the area I'm going to repair and see if I can make this fit just right. Okay, so this door now, as far as I'm concerned, is actually rust-free, finally. I'm going to mount it on the car and just see how the panel gaps look, and if I have to do a little bit of adjustment, I will, so I can get it just right. Okay, so I've fitted my door up and it still needs a bit more adjustment. It's sticking out a little bit too far at the bottom and in a bit too far at the top. I'm not going to play around with that right now. That's not as important as just getting this line, the panel gap line, just right and working with everything else. I've used some of these builders packers to put a spacer in. I put a 4.8mm spacer up the top here, which seems to be a good size. And coming down, it keeps a reasonable size panel gap the whole way down to where I've made my join. And then it actually spaces out a little bit too much. So what I need to do is, because that's just a folded edge, I can probably go back in and re-hammer and fold that edge back in a bit further so that it'll actually fit properly. But that's going to take a bit more time than I've got today, because doing these repairs was so time consuming. I am actually completely out of time. So that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hi guys, in 1965 the SP311 and the SPL311 were released. These cars came out with a 1.6 litre engine making 95 horsepower. This chassis was upgraded again in 1967 for its final time. These cars were the SR and the SRL 311. They had a 2-litre single overhead cam engine and, for the first time ever, 5-speed manual. The new engine produced 135 horsepower, but a special competition package was offered with dual Maikuni carbs and a special B model cam to produce 150 horsepower. Here in Australia, we were lucky enough not to have the emissions restriction, and all 2-litre cars had the competition package as standard. This was the bargain sports car of its day. Despite being the cheapest in its class, John Morton, Bob Sharp and others raced these cars to consistently win SCCA races.
Alright guys, that's it for another week. I didn't touch the engine this week as I just didn't have enough time, but I've got some homework. I've actually got
It's a book.
A book and some homework to do on modifying this engine, so I'll see how I go, and hopefully we can get back into it next week.
As always guys, if you want to help out the channel, we've got this exciting range of knitwear for men and women. And please like and subscribe. See you next time.
See you guys.
The new engine produced 135 horsepower. The new engine consistently win the B model cam to produce 135 horsepower.
150.
No!
Everything but that was good.